Life podcast show, and I'm very excited to introduce my guest for the show today. He's actually a former captain of his cross-country team in the University of West Florida, manager of $1 million storefront at Feet First Running. He actually worked 2 years at Nike over in Oregon as a content manager. Also was a project manager for the Ironman company doing the ultimate triathlons, and actually created his own business called Artiken 3 years ago. Christopher, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Donnie. Glad to be here. Or actually, glad to be here at HQ, but I'm glad you came to visit. It's actually my first podcast ever, so nice. Super excited to see how this pans out.
Nice, man. That's super exciting. I love that. Christopher is actually CEO and founder of the company called Artiken. And it's a super cool company. I just loved it from the start, ever since I first saw it. Its goal is just to bring, unique Kenyan products such as bracelets like what I'm wearing right now over here to America. It's handmade by Kenyans, and Artiken actually is short for Kenyan artisan. And honestly, the best part about this company is that 10% of every purchase that you make goes to clean water efforts over in Africa. And that kind of leads straight into my first question for you, man. How did you become inspired to start a company that would positively change the world? I mean, every single success story when it comes to new companies, profit is the idea, and there's just this new idea coming out, and it started with a guy named John Mackey, and he helped co-found Whole Foods. So you're in good company. Okay. And a guy named Raj, and they created this idea called conscious capitalism, where it was just companies with higher purposes will prevail. People over profits, purpose over profits. And when I saw your company and its mission of just bringing clean water to Kenyans and just doing that right out of the gate, it just really reminded me of the idea of just conscious capitalism. So I guess, my first question is, we're in business to make money, but it really seems like to me that you came in to make a change. Yep. No.
Yeah, for sure. There's two sides. Other farther, is this good?
Yeah, that should be good.
Okay. Yeah, so there was obviously a lot of inspiration wanting to do others or help others. I had read a book I was just telling you a little bit earlier ago. The guy who founded Tom's, those Tom shoes, and for every shoe you buy, he gives another one. It's been a while since I've read that book, but I was really actually inspired by that book and his mission of actually it will come back to you, and that's obviously not something you want to give to have expectations to get something back. But at the end of the day, you've got to it's the right thing to do. And since all of our product is handmade in Kenya, as you mentioned, I wanted to how could we help the country that's helping Artiken, right? At the end of the day, they're helping Artiken, they're helping our bottom line, and I wanted to make sure that we can definitely give back to them. So clean water it was non-negotiable after speaking with Paul Chalimo, a silver medalist in 2016 Olympic Games, that clean water is a big issue there, and the accessibility was an issue, and there was no thought, like you had mentioned, giving back is instrumental. So I'm glad we could do something for sure, and we'll continue to do something. And right now we're getting into a production facility, hopefully opening up in a couple weeks, and having the entire facility based around clean water, where the staff can have all the water they need to take home or whatever. I'm trying to figure that out right now.
Dude, that's amazing. And so just to share a little bit of his story, he could you share that with us a little bit, and how you did it? Just really brief. I love this story, and I just want to hear it from him. I don't want to steal it from you.
Cool. I'll try to make it in a nutshell. So I had always admired a bracelet that was handmade in Kenya that my teammate wore. He wasn't able to source one for me. So fast forward to 2014 or 15 when I had 2016, I came across Paul Chalimo, same guy, who had one on his wrist, and I was like, there it is. It's the bracelet. I need it. Please get me one. We'll do whatever. And same situation. He was like, I'll get you one when I go back to Kenya. That's where they're all made. And sure enough, he was true to his word. It's on video. 1 second, I think. Here it is.
Wow. This is the first one.
That's the first one.
Holding it in my hand right now. That's
it. Yeah, so that's actually the first bracelet that was ever made for me. Paul had got my name on it with the Kenya flag, and then I just took it to work at Nike, and then there was coworkers wanting it, friends wanting it, and then I was like, all right, let's do this. Let's figure it out. How am I going to launch this company? Naming the brand, like you mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, Kenya Artisan. I took those 2 words. I swapped them like Adidas did with Adi Dassler. Oh. I made the brand name, and from there I was like, as bad as I wanted this bracelet, as bad as I see everyone else wants this bracelet, I'm gonna close the gap. I'm gonna be the middleman. So that's how it started.
So you obviously flew to Kenya, mm-hmm. and just saw how everything's going down over there, the living conditions.
Yep.
I'm sure that was like an intense spiritual journey, sort of like 100%. Was there something that just clicked over there? Like, okay, now is the time. Now or never. Yeah. We're gonna have to do this.
Yeah, and I get, I swallow a perspective pill every time I go to Kenya. Like, nobody will ever can truly understand how blessed we are in the United States. Even I'd go as far as like, people who don't have it well can find a way out if they. Obviously, with the right network, I don't know everyone's situation, but there are a lot of people there who just like, they're stuck, and it's a very tough situation with the accessibility. Most people walk miles and miles to fetch water, and then a lot of females there don't go to school because that's their job is to fetch water, and yeah, it's a tough situation. That's a completely different podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very different there. And as far as like every time I go, we're just like everyone here has a car almost. Like you're 16 and here's a car, and that's not the case over there. It's completely. But everyone's outside walking, transportation. Now, if you land in Nairobi, it's a different story. It's a major hub. Its infrastructure is doing very well, but not far outside of the capital. It's a different world.
Yeah, we were just talking about this earlier before we started recording, and I mean, just every time we turn the faucet and we just see that stream of clean water, mm-hmm. I mean, anybody that grew up in America can't imagine it. I can't imagine it. And just how blessed we really are. And I just, it's like, if you think about it, it's kind of our duty,
Yeah.
just to get out there, and because, just the whole idea, I mean, this is starting to become a conscious capitalism episode, but
that's all right.
Just bringing that value, putting those artisans, those artists over in Kenya to work, giving them a job, giving them a living wage, and bringing fresh water to the village. Mm-hmm. Guys, please check out his Instagram profile, Artiken. You get Artiken. I'm gonna put the link in the show notes, and they have a little IG story there, and it just gives you the smallest glimpse of what it's like in Kenya, and just that the joy and the cheer in the kids' faces when they put the water there. I mean, I could only see it in a photo. You got to experience that.
It's different. It's hard to imagine, and I can't even explain it. It's amazing. And as far as the artisans, first and foremost, I'll make sure that we pay higher than the average wage in Kenya. That was another thing we were not going to ever have to worry about, that they're going to make more doing with us than anywhere else. Mm-hmm. But also, it's as we scale, we need more and more artisans. It's so easy to find because the unemployment rate's so high there. So every purchase goes so far because it's just more and more jobs there. I don't know. The government is a little not honest. I don't know if that's something we want to say. It's up to you, but and I'll repeat that. Just the government is not super honest with the unemployment rate. So there's a ton of individuals who are looking for work. So every purchase does not just provide clean water, but it provides an income for many people. So, and you could tell when like business is slow with us, we'll get email, our product production manager will be like, is there any more coming? They want our work, they want more work. So yeah, it's definitely good to give back, and we're glad we can. And we'll continue to do more and more clean water projects. And I will mention that we do partner with the Water Project. So we do, in the beginning it was like more or less me, because the donations were so much smaller that I had a contact over there. But as we're growing, I just can't cut $1,000 checks to individuals. So we're happy to partner with the Water Project, who handles the funds.
Dude, you know, I just got to say, I could just see you light up when you're talking about it. I mean, you know, this is a guy, and this is a company with purpose. Mm-hmm. You know, and when you're entering business with a purpose, you know, other than profit, you're gonna have the drive. You're gonna go for it, and the profit will come. I believe that wholeheartedly. I think it's just a universal truth. You know, I mean, there's different ways to say it. You could call it karma. You could call it the golden rule. But you get what you give, definitely. And we were talking about this a little bit. I wanted to bring it up again. Just that right out of the gate, you decided to give 10% of the revenues to clean water, and
10% of the net profit.
10% of the net profit, and most businesses, especially right out of the gate, would not do that. Maybe when they're, you know, a couple $1 million in net profit, they're like, okay, let's cut a couple checks. But this was, you know, the mission from the beginning. And, you know, saying that, I think a lot of us, we're walking around in this world, and we kind of think we can't really make a difference. You know, I don't have the power to help people. You know, I'm not rich enough, or I'm not strong enough, or I can't help. Mm-hmm. And I love what you're doing with this company, man, because you're proving them all wrong. Yeah. You know, you don't need to be a millionaire, billionaire to help people. Either it's something small or it's something big, like what you're doing, you know? Do you agree with that? Do you have any comments on that?
No, I completely agree. I'm not a big fan of talking politics. Yeah. But a big thing that politicians like to say is the average donation that they receive from the individuals. It's like, our average donation is $12 or $20, and it's across 16 million people or 5 million people. It just like, and they have like the largest budget through so many people. So back to the whole, it doesn't really matter how much money you make to have to give back. You can finding a way to, whether it's cutting that Starbucks drink or cutting whatever, $5. I mean, I started the company on $700 that was practically through a Kickstarter, and it came through my friends. It 100% came through my friends, and that $700 built the website. So it really doesn't take much. And I mean, if everyone gave, look how fast the Notre Dame Cathedral went down, and how many, there was a lot of big players that kicked in, but the average donation outside of what we heard on the media, like the big money, millions that were donated, was incredible. If everyone in the world everyone in the U.S. put forth $1 towards the Amazon rainforest, you would see a huge change. So now we're glad that we could start from the beginning with Clean Water Initiative, or net profits going to Clean Water Initiatives.
Yeah. No, that's so true. I mean, I think you're right when you say that. I mean, it's not the big fishes that make the difference. It's the millions of little fishes out there, and it's just so much more powerful. That'll make the huge wave, not the big whale. So I just love how you said that. That was beautiful.
Yeah, and actually, and this is a little off topic. It's like Kim Kardashian. She had launched this brand like 2-3 months ago or something called Kimono. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's a shapewear.
A shapewear. Yeah. It was this. She launched this brand called Kimono. I guess it was like, and the word is not good in the other side of the world. I don't know exactly, but it was not received well, the name of the brand, and social media blew her up, and last night or yesterday she announced the new brand name. which is huge because a kimono, like she had gone through, she had filed her trademark, she had like a whole bunch of stuff printed with the name, and then all the little guns, all of us, me and you, came in and were like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't name that this because of XYZ. And then it completely re-changed the name of the brand. So, yeah, no, it's little people do big things.
Yeah. That goes in line. I'm reading this book right now. I'm gonna put a link into the show notes. It's called Whiplash, and it's just talking about how the world is changing right now and how kind of, we saw the industrial age turn into the information age, and we're seeing all the changes happen with social media and all the power of it. Kickstarter you mentioned, and just everybody, little tiny amounts of money, and creating these huge businesses. And that's one of the things. I mean, we're entering this stage where the big people don't really have the power anymore. It's the little people now. Sure. And you just had a really good example of that. It's just the way that the internet was able to connect all of us, and we were able to make a difference. But I love that, and that was great. That was an amazing first part of the show. So on this show, we're mindset and we're mechanics. Okay. So that was kind of the first half, and that was amazing. I love it. And the second half, I just a little more focused. You were the captain of your cross country team, and I'm a runner too. And I look up to my captain and all that, and to my coach. And there's a couple creeds, there's a couple just ethos of running, and that are just in the heart and soul of running and running culture. I think one of the big ones, no pain, no gain. Yeah. And just mind over matter. We're so much more powerful than we think we are. I think you'd agree with that. Oh, just sure. When you ran 6 miles and you think you ain't got any more, you probably got 6 more left. Yeah. And all that experience from running. Are you still a runner?
I would use that term loosely.
Okay. Just real quick. Sorry. You have incredible experience in running, and you know exactly what running's about. Were you able to apply anything you learned from running into business? Just the not quitting mentality, the no pain, no gain?
100%. 100%. Yes. A runner, they actually statistically show that they make incredible employees. Wow. You have to look into that more. I don't want to state a stat and be wrong, but over on the record, runners make incredible employees. So with that said, no, for sure, it's the whole relentless to not quit. We've been on long runs where we're like a 12-mile run and we're 2 miles out, and there is no other way to get home other than their feet. And maybe you're completely dehydrated because you didn't drink enough before you went out. You're dead. Whatever the case may be, you're taking yourself to the finish line. And it's also a team sport. So the top 5 people really count. So if you're having a bad race and you're sitting and you're in the 5th place, some people can mentally check out if you're the 6th guy, because your score is not going to count. But there's been many races throughout my collegiate career where I was the number 5 guy, and just as important as the number 1 guy, because the whole point scale for the awards. And you just have to go all in all the way to the finish line, and that carries over to business for sure. And the fact that it's tough creating your business, managing your own business. It's tough. Accountability, you have to get up and you have deadlines, and from the accountability to running, every day you miss, you maybe you're 2 days behind. If you take a week off, you're starting over as far as your fitness level. So you have to be accountable in running. You have to be accountable. I hold myself accountable with a planner. Plan to fail if you fail to plan. Yeah. So it's a lot of it carries over. Running has been very instrumental to my success in business.
I've heard a saying before. I don't know. Let me know if you've heard it, but there was this guy, I think he was in the Silicon Valley, and he said something that kind of struck me. They all like to use running analogies, and he said, startups, it's a marathon, but it's sprinkled with sprints. So there's sprints in there. So you might have a couple weeks where you're I don't know if the company's going to die. or if it's going to live. So you just got to sprint for it. But at the same time, I mean, it's a marathon, because it's just kind of like, would you say like a mind game, just trying to survive and trying to thrive, just more than, survive, but thrive, trying to, what would you say about that?
I think that is beyond accurate. And granted, I've been in business for 3 years now. I didn't really do this full time. It was a side hustle for 2.5 years. But now that I'm like completely invested in, there's nothing to fall back on. Like when it was a side hustle, it's whatever. I'm gonna go to work tomorrow and make my money. Now it can't falter. So there are definitely sprints along the way. I've had good weeks, and then there's like bad weeks where traffic is low on the site, and you're like, oh my god. And then traffic leads to conversion, which leads to sales, which leads to money in the bank, which leads to from deadlines to whatever the case may be. There's definitely sprints within the marathon, and the marathon is to last longer than the average business is within business. That's why I always encourage to study the people who have been in the game for the long time. Like, you can study your businesses who are like on the map right now. Maybe your Facebooks, and they're obviously doing a lot of things right. But like, name all the, like Nike, they've been around since the 70s, and they're still at the top.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an admiration, and there's definitely going to be sprints along the marathon. That's a great quote.
That sweet, man. Thank you for sharing, that wisdom there. I noticed most of your marketing seems, social media, and just like peer to peer. Just honestly, I think probably your best marketing is the fact that people are wearing these bracelets. People will stop me all the time. They're like, "Hey, what's that on your wrist?" And just seeing all the professional athletes wear it. It's a really cool advertising model, because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem like you're spending too much on it, and it's just taken off. Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah. We're blessed. We're fortunate that what we have today, there was not in the 70s or 80s and even 90s, where we're a touch away from touching anyone in the world. I mean, you can go to Instagram, geotag a random part in the Philippines and a beach in the Philippines, and you can see who was there throughout the day, and you could connect with that person. You couldn't do that 10, 15 years ago. So, social media is 100% a massive revenue generator for us. Instagram, for sure. Social media, and we're not spending too much, because again, we're still in the small business startup phase. We have to watch every single dollar. I can tell you where every dollar is at right now.
That's good.
Yeah, so social media is it's been good, because you can make a post, and at the same time you can engage with all the individuals who are excited about your brand, and we definitely engage with those who are excited. And then of course, what's powerful is the word of mouth. So once it's on their wrist, we're confident that our product is great, such as like the bracelet you have, and then we know that your friends will pick up on it and see it and then want it as well. So we do the social media pretty well, and then the product will speak for itself.
Do you have any quick tips on how to scale on social media on Instagram?
Genuine. I'd say there's a lot of individuals who look for a specific content strategy. I think being true to who you are, because there's so many different people who do it exceptionally. I mean, there's people who have styling palettes, and then there's people who do just videos, and there's people who do captions on only one line. There's people, at the end of the day, it's just consistency. It's making sure you're posting at least once a day. I mean, as far as quantity versus quality, that's a different discussion, but making sure you're consistent. And that's like a lifestyle. You're consistent that you always put in time to your business. You're consistent that you always put out content. You're consistent with your message that 10% goes into this. You're consistent in running, because if you take a day off or two, you're going to lose fitness. And you're just consistency for sure is be my biggest tip.
Yeah, man. Amen. I mean, you just tied it to running. That's exactly what went to my mind. It's hilarious how quick you could fall off just from a couple days.
Yeah, you miss a couple days.
And you're like, training sucks. But I I keep talking about books on this podcast. I'm gonna leave it in the show notes too. And it's called The Tipping Point. And it's kind of similar. It reminded me of what you're talking about. And it's just, enough people talking about the product, enough scaling. Do you got it? This guy, he got it. You see?
Yeah.
Great minds think alike. And just enough people talking about it. And it gets to this point where it just tips over, and then everybody is talking about it. And, I think you're putting in the effort now. You're putting in that hard miles so that when you get to the conference, you could win at it. I really think so. I just from what I've seen and interviewing you now, I got great hope and faith for your company, man.
I appreciate that. It's funny you mentioned the tipping point, because I use it a lot, especially in the past month with our team, and it's a smaller team of like 5 employees, but I mention it all the time. We're at the tipping point. After the rebrand on July 4th, with all of the new product and all of the just new programs, from the brand ambassador program to the wholesale opportunities to everything that we just rolled out, to a strong content strategy and so much more. The tipping point is near, and there's never like what makes or breaks, like Lil Nas's One Town, whether it's a one hit wonder or not. That song was his tipping point, but then also capitalizing on the tipping point. So whatever the case may be, I feel like the tipping point is always, even when we've hit it, we're waiting for the next tipping point.
Yeah. That's right. Multiple tipping points. There's another book. I'm sorry, man. And it's called The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster by Darren Hardy. Okay. And it's just the ups and downs in business, and, you're going to climb up, and then you might go down, but it's going to come back up until eventually. But I think you just said it's consistency.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
That's the make or break it. It's not, you said before we started recording, there is no secret. There is no, there's no
right time.
Yeah. There's no hidden secret that, okay, if I do this, boom, I'm successful. It's hard work, consistency, not giving up. Mm-hmm. And then eventually one day you're going to reach that tipping point. Would you agree?
No, for sure. That's all it is. If I were to ever pass on anything, it's just never give up. Which you can kind of align it with consistent, but it's never give up. It's why I've got the specific tattoos that I have. It was the first bracelet that I wore for 2 years was never give up, because there are what do you call it, the roller coaster. There's ups and downs for sure. There's days where you're especially when I first started, actually 2-3 weeks ago was the first time in a year where I didn't have a sale on a day. And I was that destroyed my ego. Not the fact, and the week was a very strong week, mm-hmm. but the fact that I didn't have one sale on that day, which hadn't occurred in about 1 year, was oh my God, what could I have done differently? How could I have just one bracelet have gone out the door? So there's going to be ups and downs, and it's good that you talk about reading, and you should continue to push that platform, because Warren Buffett, the richest man, or Bezos maybe, but for the longest time the richest man in the world, he reads 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. 6 hours a day. How could he be efficient? How could he be productive? And of course, he may not have done that for the longest part, but you learn to leverage your resources, and you can read 6 and you'll learn I don't need to be involved at this. I could be doing this. Yeah. And reading is it's huge. And most of what I know, those are the books I'm going through right now on my desk. So
devouring them.
Trying to. 1 a month is the goal.
Okay.
Yeah. 1 a month is the goal.
Yeah, I'm on this thing right now. I don't do it every day. I try. I really try a chapter a day.
That's good.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been trying to do. It's kind of hardcore, but yeah.
That's it. That's all it is. And you'll pick up something. You'll pick up something instrumental in a chapter. And at the end of the day, it's habits. If you don't commit yourself to a chapter a day, you'll slip up. If I don't commit to myself working starting at 9 a.m., I might push myself to 9:15 because I work at my house. I can do technically whatever, but it's having a plan. So sticking to 9 a.m., sticking to one chapter, sticking to something, or you'll fall off. So no, it's good. It's a good idea.
Sweet, I love it. Yeah, and just one last thing about books. I've heard somebody say before, I can't quote it directly, so, don't quote me. But reading books is just peering into the mind of the author. That author took the time to give you his or her knowledge, and you just get it, for $9.99. I mean, It's insane. It's the ultimate leverage, and, after saying that, I just want to say, thank you for giving me your time, man. I know how valuable it is. And just this podcast, it's been hugely valuable to me. I know it's going to be amazingly valuable to you guys. I love it. Thanks, man. Any last, comments, remarks before we go?
Yeah. I posted on Facebook the other day that we will be industry leaders in the jewelry industry by 2030. I would love for everyone to come back, if you're still hopefully doing podcasting and real estate or whatever you're doing, to check this chapter back out in 2019. But in 11 years from now, we'll be the largest jewelry company we'll be the largest jewelry company in the industry. So, and other than that, no, it's good to read another quote: "Readers are leaders." Yeah. Other than that, nope, it's been an honor. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Thank you so much for wearing the product. It means a lot. I'm going to have to make sure we hook you up with another one on your way out. And other than that, whenever you need anything, you know where to find me.
Yeah, thank you again, man. It's been a lot, So, this is a pleasure, guys. We're catching him in the early days.
Yeah, you really are.
It's like knowing it's like knowing Steve Jobs when he was out the garage. You know what I mean? So, huge pleasure. And
Shoe Dog.
There it is, Phil Knight.
Shoe Dog. If you've not read Shoe Dog, it's an incredible book. And I feel the very same way about where we are with the company, where Nike was in the earlier days. And we've seen the awesome photo of Jeff Bezos with the Amazon thing on his wall. That's exactly where we are right now. So, the display for the store just came out literally a couple hours ago. And 10 years from now, they may not have heard this podcast, but their son or daughter or them will be wearing our bracelets.
Yeah, that's a bold statement, man, and that's how you do it. That's how you change the world. Bold statements. So Donnie Turner signing off, and don't ever